I grew up in 2 different places. Oh man, this trail sucks. Anyways, I was born in California. Oh fuck. That bird scared the shit out of me. My hair does not look great. I thought it looked better than it does. It looks like shit. Okay, let's go like that. That's better. That feels more natural. So I grew up in California, on the coast of California, Northern California, not Southern California. You couldn't pay me enough to live in Southern California ever. Typical California, Northern Californian take on California is Southern California sucks. Oh man, it is a swamp. This is as far as I can go. This is gonna be short. This is a short walk. I lived in California till I was about 12, and then I moved to Michigan. And I lived in Michigan until I was 21. Was it 21? I think it was 21. 19, 20. I don't fucking know. I went to school in Michigan. Almost graduated from high school in Michigan. Almost. And then moved back to California for a while. And then moved back to Michigan. I actually lived a year in Ohio, but I try to forget that year because it's Ohio. I spent time between both sides of the country. Michigan still counts as the Midwest, so it's not quite East Coast. I've spent the last few years living in the state of New York and exploring the East Coast. And when I say the state of New York, I mean upstate New York, not the city, nowhere near the city. I've been to the city a few times. The city is fine if you like cities. I personally don't like cities. I'm actually gonna cross the street and go for a walk over there. I'm just gonna walk through the cemetery. So, living in both sides of the country and living in the Midwest, I have some pretty strong feelings and opinions about the differences between the two. There's a beer can on that gravestone. I'm really enjoying living on the East Coast. I used to really love living in California, but over time, living in California became more of a chore than enjoyable at some point. And there are parts of living in Michigan and like the Midwest that I enjoyed, but I hate Michigan's weather. But anyways, this video isn't about Michigan. It's about the differences between California and New York. And honestly, they are vastly different places. I think the first most obvious difference, I feel very awkward walking through the graveyard recording, but whatever. Oh, fuck. I am getting attacked by nature today. I think the most obvious difference is cost of living. Like, unless you're talking about living in New York City, the cost of living in the state of New York is significantly more affordable than living in California. Like, when we left California, I was paying $2,400 a month to live in a 2-bedroom apartment that was only 900 square feet. It was only 900 square feet. Oh, look, a little path. Heyo. $2,400, and it was an apartment. It was not a house. What a spooky floating tree. Ooh, look at the floating tree. How does it do that? Whoa, it's so crazy. Okay, anyways, contrast that to where I live in New York. I'm gonna check myself for ticks later. There's a gravestone back here. Oh, look, a duck. I'm currently paying $1,400, so $1,000 cheaper, and I have an entire 4-bedroom house with an attic with a basement. So I don't really know how many square feet the place that I live in is. Even if the living space was the same, which it's not, I would say the living space is probably like 1,400 square feet at least. And then you add the fact, ow, thorns. And then you add the fact that I have an attic and a basement. That already just triples the space in general. Like, yeah, those are only like storage spaces. I have a backyard. I don't have a lot of parking space, but that's okay. The point is, it's just a lot better. I would say on the flip side of that, the economy in upstate New York is certainly not as good as the economy in California. I did find it a lot harder to get employed. Like, I always had a job in California. When I moved here, I did take a break, so I was unemployed, I guess, whatever. But when I decided to get back into working, nobody was calling me back. And like, the jobs available were kind of limited. Like, eventually I did find, like, it only took me, I don't know how long it took me, like 5 months, I think. I wonder how old these gravestones are. I see 1810 over there, or 1910 over there. Can't really read it. I think it's 18 something. Well, this one is 1867. That one's 1875. Yeah, we got more broken ones over here. But like, if you're motivated enough, you'll find something. It's probably not going to pay as good. You'll find something. You also don't need it to pay as good because it's not as expensive to live over here. Apparently Warren Robinson never died, but Cynthia Roberts, his wife, did. So this guy's just walking around almost 200 years old. I don't mind. Like, I was making 6 figures in California, but those 6 figures felt pretty similar to what I'm making now, even though I'm making like 40 grand less than what I was making in California. The other obvious choice, obviously the weather is vastly different in all of upstate New York than it is in California. But in California, you do get all seasons depending on where you live. So if you live far north in the mountains, you're gonna get all of the seasons. But if you live in like the Central Valley where all the farms are, it's pretty consistent throughout the year. It gets hotter in the summer and a little cooler in the winter, but like, I lived in the Central Valley for years, way too long, and like the coldest it ever got was like maybe 55 at night. And on the high end, like when our last day in California decided to remind us why we chose to leave, and it was 120 degrees when we left. It's so fucking hot. I can't stand it. Up here, up in upstate New York, it might touch 90 degrees like for a day or two, and then it goes right back down to 70s. Like 80s is typically like the high end, and even when it's 80, people up here are like, oh man, it's hot for up here. Obviously we get snow. I honestly like the changing seasons. It makes me appreciate when it's nice and warm out like it is today. Because in California, it's just the same thing every single day. You're like, it's gonna be nice tomorrow. I don't really care to go out today. Well, up here, it's like, it might be nice tomorrow, it might not. Let's go out today. Also, California likes to boast to have these mountains, and we have beaches, and it's so beautiful here. And it is true, there's a lot of beautiful things in California. Gorgeous areas. Yosemite Valley is one of my favorite areas I've ever been to, ever. I love Yosemite. And then there's beaches and towns that are like absolutely stunning. The problem is, I shouldn't be out of breath. The problem is, these places are not close to each other. That would be like me saying I can be in the city for part of my day and then I can go hang out in the mountains for the rest of the day in New York. I can do that, 100% I can do that. But it's a far drive. Like, from the beach to Lake Tahoe, it's like 6-7 hours. So yes, realistically you can do it. After driving for 6 hours, does it really matter that you're at the beach? Where I am in New York, I can actually drive for like 10 minutes and be in the mountains, and it'd be amazing. Or I can drive for an hour and be in a bigger city and hang out. Or I can drive for an hour and be at a lake. Like, there's a lot of options here, and I don't have to drive as far. And there's a lot more nature here. People think of California as this very naturey, everyone loves nature kind of place. It's not. It's very much not. The people in California don't give a shit about nature. Like, there are so many trails, but you have to again, you have to drive really far to get to a nice trail. But everything is very spread apart there. Well, everything is very condensed here. And people here really care about their nature. Like, if I were to go on a random hike in California, if I was just to pick a random trail somewhere in California, odds are, one, that trail is going to be very crowded. Because most of the trails in California are very crowded. Two, it's more than likely going to be not clean. Like, I'm not talking about like trash everywhere, but there's going to be trash on that hike. It's inevitable. That's the way it is. And then three, most hiking trails out in California, you have to pay to park. There's not many trails that you don't have to pay to park. There's always a little box that says pay to park or whatever. There's never anyone there. I've gotten away with not paying tons of times. Don't tell the state of California, but most places you have to pay to park, and it's not cheap to park. It's normally between $5 and $10, which kind of sounds cheap, but like just to park so that I can go for a hike, that's a little nuts. I don't want to pay $5 to $10. I've seen it upwards of $20, depending on the popularity of the trail. But here in New York, the trails are all clean. Occasionally, I will come across a trail that has trash, but a majority of the time, people here don't trash their parks. People here really like their nature. The trails here are beautiful. They're well maintained. They're clean. And I almost never have to pay to go to one of these trails. Like if it's a state parks everywhere, you have to pay to park. You don't really have to pay to get in. You can park somewhere else and walk in, but new day, same sweatshirt. Another huge difference between living in New York and living in California is just the amount of people. New York City is known for being this like huge epicenter of people, right? That's just the city. Man, can I just get a fucking trail that isn't muddy and filled with mosquitoes? So that's kind of just the city. Everywhere else, there's not that many people. Even in the city of Syracuse, it's a fairly small city. I just want to hike, man. That's all I want. Okay, it's nice. I don't know if nice is the word for Syracuse. Parts of Syracuse are really nice. And then there's Buffalo. Buffalo is actually a pretty big city. And I don't know about Rochester. I've never been to Rochester, which is... Why? It only went off once. It's probably just a test. There's a fucking puddle over here too. Man, I just can't catch a break with these fucking hiking trails this week. It's just been raining a lot. It's not normal. Normally you can hike on these trails and not have an issue, but just the population of people in New York is so much lower in general. At least it feels lower than California. And it feels like that throughout the whole East Coast, I feel. It feels very spread out instead of like concentrated. Right now, these woods, I'm probably like 20 minutes from Syracuse right now. But I won't feel like I'm in Syracuse until I get about 5 minutes from Syracuse. I don't live in Syracuse. Okay, stalkers? It's really nice because I can actually feel like I'm out in nature. Right now, I'm really close to the road because I can't actually go down this trail, so there's a lot of noise. I wish I could go down this trail, but I can't. New York is just weird, and like the East Coast in general is just weird. I don't feel like California is weird. Well, some of California is weird because those people for some reason want to live in a state with overinflated cost of living, constant out of control fires, and the new super group P. Diddy and the SA crew. So, you know, they're weird in that way. So yesterday, or was that yesterday? I don't know. Whenever I was recording the last video, that cemetery, get out of here, stupid mosquito. I was in a cemetery, which isn't weird. You know, cemeteries are pretty normal, pretty standard thing to see in any state. But we'll have normal sized cemeteries like the one I was in yesterday. But then there's also these small plots of lands that are like the size of my backyard that are just sprinkled around random rural areas that have nothing around them except maybe somebody's houses next to it. They just don't feel like real cemeteries. They feel like props outside of people's homes, like like Halloween props. See, like this cemetery here. It's a little cemetery next to a house across the street from nothing, next to a highway. And then I don't know if this is normal because I grew up in California. I don't think it's normal because I also grew up in Michigan. I grew up between the two. There's genuinely a lot more to do for free on the East Coast, and a lot to do for a lot cheaper on the East Coast than the West Coast. You know, I talked earlier about trails not having to pay for parking for most trails. Like, I didn't have to pay for parking for this, which is great because I would have been pissed if I did, because I can't go anywhere. Near our house, I'm not saying where I live, but near our house, well, 20 minutes from our house during the fall, there's a farm. On this farm,
he had a pig.
You know, you can go through the pumpkin patch, you can do all that. They have it's a free corn maze, and then they have a little train that kids can go on for free. Most of the stuff there is free. You know, you buy pumpkins, you do all that stuff, but the activities are typically free. In contrast to that, where I used to live in California, there's a town called Manteca. The town next to it is where the pumpkin patch was. Lathrop? I think it's Lathrop. It used to be a smaller farm. You'd go there, you'd get your pumpkins, you'd leave, whatever. Get your Christmas trees in the winter during Christmas. It used to be you would have, like, they put up a bunch of attractions and you used to have to pay per attraction. But then, instead of just having to pay for the attractions, you had to start paying to get in. But you didn't only have to pay to get in, you also had to pay for the attractions. And it wasn't cheap to get in. It was pretty expensive to get in the door. And then you have to pay for all these attractions. And it's stupid. Like, I don't want to pay to get in and pay for all the attractions. Look, there's the lake. It's really pretty over here. And being from California, I'm just not used to it. It's so weird to be able to do things for free. All right, well, I gotta go. I gotta drive to work, otherwise I'm gonna be late, so.